Hi everyone. We're just experiencing sort of a heads up here. We're experiencing a couple of technical issues with this, which is obviously a challenge for us. Zena from Hume will be here with us in a moment. So we've just got a slight change to our agenda, but that's okay. This is the way of the world, and we come up with adjustments. And first, I want to thank everyone who's online today. We've had a wonderful response, and we really appreciate that you've invested your time, care, and attention to spend the next potentially 6 weeks with us. My name is Tim McCarthy. I'm one of the directors of Sage Business Group, and you'll also see on screen there is Michael Osborne, who's fellow director of Sage Business Group. And Zena will be coming in shortly from Hume City Council. And just before we get into everything else, I just want to firstly thank Hume City Council for this opportunity to present. They've been wonderful advocates for small business, and Michael will talk shortly about where this came from, but it's a wonderful opportunity for small business in the area and mid-sized business in the area of Hume to really get some opportunities to learn about what really working on your business is rather than working in your business. And from a practical sense, what actually that means. What does working on your business actually mean? What we'll just typically get ourselves moving through here is today's agenda. We'll cover off a little bit about Sage Business Group and who we are, why Hume City Council have engaged us to work with them for this webinar series, which will be over the next 6 weeks. We'll talk a little bit today about what working on your business really is. We'll chat through what strong business foundations, and you'll see some of our thoughts around that. We'll also learn about the 2-Minute MBA, which is something we've put together, which I hope you enjoy. And we're going to talk about the law of results. Through all that time, we'll be talking about how ultimately it's about your business and how you can make your business work better. So that's the start there. One thing we want to do for a start though is talk about a non-disclaimer. And a non-disclaimer from our point of view is the opposite of what happens in most of these sessions. Everyone wants to say, thanks for coming along, but don't take this as advice. You must get personal advice. We want to go the opposite way. We're proud of everything that's included in this. We're very, very happy with what information we're presenting today, and we're excited to be able to do that. So please, what we know is if you implement and if you follow through, and we'll talk about that later on in some detail, there are results that can be had positive for you. So we don't disclaim this at all. We're in the business of financial education and solutions, and this program is all about that. So that's a bit of an intro about us very, very quickly. Michael will give us some more details. What we're going to do though is just so you can focus on the screen rather than focus on our heads, which is questionable at best, is we'll just flick our cameras off now. If Zena pops in later on, what we'll do, we'll just update and adjust as that comes along. So I'll hand it over to you, Michael, and you can take it away for the next part of our session.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks again for the intro, and yeah, it's great to be given the opportunity. So a little bit about us. As Tim said, we're directors of Sage Business Group, and we've got a team of 19 based in Sunbury. But our clients are spread over Hume, Victoria, in fact, Australia, and some internationally. And we're an accounting firm specialising in taxation and business advisory services, and we've been looking after clients in that area for a bit over 32 years. Now, whilst that's nice to know, I want to quickly highlight what drives us, what keeps our passion and fire burning, I suppose, after 32 years. And that's what we refer to that as our core purpose. The reason we turn up day after day, it's our why we exist. And for our clients and our team, and in fact, family and friends, our core purpose is to create lasting financial security with a balanced lifestyle through education. And we have a brand promise, which you can actually see there on your screen. It says, we love to provide easy to understand advice that works. So therefore, every time we have a choice, every time there's a fork in the road or we've got to make a decision, we have to do that with our core purpose and our brand promise in mind. And if our choice or decision does not fall into line with our core purpose or brand promise, then we have to reassess our decision. So how do we keep on track? Filter everything through our core values of honesty, integrity, congruency, passion, commitment, and balance. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say we get it right 100% of the time, no way, but I'm quite confident we get it right more often than not. So my first question here, I suppose, and my first tip, if you've got a team to lead, no matter how big or small, and at some stage and for whatever reason, you may have to have doing inverted commas here, a difficult conversation with them around behaviour or performance, or perhaps both. Of course, we all love having those conversations, don't we? Do you have core purpose or core values? Because I can tell you, it's a lot easier to have those difficult conversations when we're referencing core purposes and core values. The conversation is no longer personal. It's about living into those purposes and values. So do you have one? If you don't, you know what, maybe have a look at it. If you do, is it written down and communicated regularly with your team? If you don't, as I was going to say, have a look and Google Simon Sinek, S-I-N-E-K. There's a TED talk, Begin With Why. Really, really powerful. Now, before we get into it, I've referenced team a couple of times, and we're going to be talking about team throughout this 6-week journey. And it doesn't matter whether it's just yourself, one or two others, or 50. Now, if there's just one or two of yourselves, you know, do you have contractors or consultants or bookkeepers, accountants, or HR specialists? You know, they're part of your team. They must know what your core values and your core purpose are. So that's essentially a little bit about us. I've just noticed Zena's friendly face come online.
Oh
Hello.
My gosh. Hello. I had to join by phone. I'm so sorry, everybody.
That's all right, as long as you're here.
Technology has let me down totally this morning, totally. So I don't know. Yeah, so you can hear me, obviously.
That's all right. No, what we've done is we've just jumped in and talked a little bit about us, but what we can do is we can throw back to you, Zena, and just say, you can do your intro.
Oh, thank you. You're a bit late, but you've probably covered what I wanted to say. But no, I just wanted to introduce you guys properly, if that's all right. So, yeah. All right.
Off you go.
All right.
Yours. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Oh, the floor is mine. Thank you. So I don't know if people can see me, but welcome everybody, and just apologies for the technological delay, and I'm going to try not to take up too much time. But yeah, I just wanted to say hello and welcome everybody, and we've to let you all know that Hume City Council has partnered with Sage Business Group, a very well-known accounting and advisory firm, not only in Sunbury but well-known throughout Hume. And we're going to bring you a series of interactive webinars about working on your business, not in your business, which Michael probably would have started talking about already. Just want to let you know that Sage, from our perspective, Sage Business Group specialises in all areas of financial management and planning, tax accounting, wealth and investment solutions, and business strategies as well. And you've probably just heard both Michael and Tim this morning, but I will introduce both of those directors from Sage in a moment. But as I said, they're not only a very reputable firm in Hume, but also Melbourne's North. And we approached Michael after our recent round of COVID funding grants, where we identified a series of key points and issues from the applications that evidence the type of help that businesses may need just to get them on track with even the basic of financial planning and setup. So we're very grateful that Michael and Tim accepted the offer to work with us. And they may have already mentioned this, but we're presenting a series of 6 45-minute weekly webinars to address some of these key points, as well as providing you practical tools, tips and advice for driving your success, driving your business to success, basically. So we thank you for your time. I want to welcome everybody. We realise it's been a very difficult time for our business community. It's certainly very unprecedented times we're facing, but we thank you for the time and effort that you've put in. The housekeeping that I was going to go through with you is, if Michael already hasn't asked you, but please mute both your mic and your video, so it doesn't drain a lot of usage, and then also it just avoids the background noise entering from it to everybody else. The webinars will be interactive, so throughout it, Michael and Tim will probably be asking you questions along the way, so please use the chat column to answer. And Tim, I believe it's set up already on the right-hand side.
Yes, Tim's going to go through that.
Excellent, beautiful. Yep. So Tim will talk you through that. And similarly, if you've got questions for Michael or Tim as they're presenting, again, type them into the chat, and they'll endeavour to answer them either throughout as they go along, or perhaps get in touch with you later on. So, all right, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you formally to Michael and Tim. So Michael Osborne's 33 years of experience as an accountant in public practice, the legal profession and the import robotics industry has fueled a passion in helping business achieve their true potential in relation to growing and improving profitability and cash flow, ultimately enhancing the owner's lifestyle. Michael's a father of 3 girls, and he's always keen to spend time with his family, and he loves outdoor pursuits. His contribution to the community was finally recognised and well overdue last year in November, when we announced him as the Business Leader of the Year for Hume City Council. So congratulations to Michael and for all of his hard work and his contribution. Tim McCarthy, also a director at Sage, has 19 years of experience in dealing with small to medium businesses, in helping establish business and asset protection structures, wealth creation opportunities, and business development systems. Tim enjoys spending time with his young family and being involved in many community group projects, including an extended period as chair of the Lancefield and Romsey Community Bendigo Bank, which include a launch of the new branch in the period after the global financial crisis. So well done there, Tim. All right, as I said, that's enough of my time taken, because we'll probably go a little bit over now because we started a bit late. So hand you back to Michael, and enjoy the session, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, Zena. Okay, so where do we get up to? So basically, just going through there about talking about having core purpose and core values. So Zena actually alluded to why we're running these sessions in conjunction with Hume Council. And look, over the journey, we've had a few conversations with Hume about the impact of COVID-19 on small business. And we believe there's 3 distinct stages that a lot of businesses will go through as a result of this disruption. So you can see on the screen that the first one is respond, and then going through to recovery, and hopefully going through to thriving. Now, during the respond phase, we came from a place of reacting to what's been thrown at us by this pandemic, and also the lockdown measures, but also what's been thrown to us in relation to government assistance, federal, state, and of course, fortunate to have a local government, Hume, who is very supportive of local government, of local businesses. So that response phase was, as I said, reactive. We're in hibernation mode and definitely survival mode. Having said that, there were some businesses that actually just thrived straight away, but there were equally a lot of businesses that did not. But as we now enter this recovery phase, with lockdowns being relaxed somewhat, I believe we should approach this phase with a different mindset. We need to be more proactive. We need to apply the learnings from this unfortunate event. And as we say, update and innovate. We've seen so many businesses innovate already. I think the buzzword of the last 3 months has been pivot, but that's fine. But innovation, I prefer to look at and say, what can we do differently with the resources we have? So it's really important now to look, if there's been opportunities, what do you need to do as a business leader? What do you need to change to ensure we don't revert back to the way we've always been doing things? Tim and I spoke about this at length, saying that there's been so many, I suppose, downsides to this, but there's been some upside in terms of doing business differently, and this is one of them. Zoom as opposed to face-to-face. So what is it that we can be doing if we see a change? What can we do to make sure we don't revert back to old habits? What we've also been seeing and dealing with over the last 20 odd years, but more specifically the last 3 months, is, you may have heard me say it before, the old Charles Darwin theory is very prevalent. It's in that it's not the strongest of the species that will survive, nor the most intelligent. It will be the most adaptable to change. So we've been finding that businesses that have been able to adapt to this ever-changing environment have had strong business foundations. And we're going to spend a bit of time over the next 6 weeks on strong business foundations. We've also found that businesses who had those strong core values and core purposes remained solid and true to those. They seem to have fared better. We've also seen that our most successful clients have a plan, actually 3 plans. In business, there is a business plan. Personally, they'll have a financial plan. And finally, when they can no longer look after their own affairs, they have a life plan with all their documentation in one place. So really important to plan. The businesses we have noticed also that are doing better than others are continually and consistently working on their business. And then over the next 6 weeks, we'll be talking a lot more about that. They understand the value of consistent implementation. This is really important. As business owners, we tend to overestimate what we can achieve in the short term and severely underestimate what we can achieve in the longer term with consistent implementation. We're going to touch on that a little bit later, but definitely endeavour to cover all of those and expand on those findings over the upcoming weeks. So enough about us and why we do what we do and how we strongly believe in education. Let's get into the topic about working on your business, not in it. And before we do that, Tim, do you want to just explain to people the chat facility, please?
Yeah, so over the next 6 weeks, we want to use a bit of chat interaction. And for those who haven't used Zoom before, we'll just put a little slide up there. It'll just show you where you can click on the chat icon down the bottom. How you can type some chat in. You can view chat that's happening along the way. So if you click on that icon down the bottom, if you can't see it, just there's a message privately if that's the case. We've got Linda here online as well, who's here to help anyone. So hopefully that's an opportunity for everyone to jump on board and jump on the chat screen and have a chat to us about some questions we're asking.
Fantastic. Thank you. And thank you for leading it, because I'm actually going to get you to do some work now, the listeners, because working on your business, not in it. We've seen it written, we've heard it said, but what does it really mean? So what does it mean to you right now? And I want you to respond via the chat, right? And if you're listening to this later on because it's being recorded, just write it down somewhere. But right now, please put it in the chat. Be open and honest about what you feel working on your business means right now. If you don't know, then put I don't know. Really, our first learning is we've got to be open and honest about what we know, and more importantly, what we don't know. So fire away. Don't look at everyone else's chats. Please put in there what you believe working on your business means. We'll just give everyone a couple of minutes to start filtering that through, because I'd love to get some feedback.
Yeah, fantastic. We're already getting some through here, Michael, coming through from someone. We've got some saying, Susan saying it's getting her systems up to date. We've got Graham can't see chats. Okay, that's all right, Graham. We'll read them out to you. Business structures, marketing and processes. Thanks, Daryl. What to do and what to not to do. It's all confusing. That's from Shiva.
Yep.
Updating social media with promotional materials and photos, organising printing of brochures. We've got that from Catherine. We've got keen to start a new business from Nicole, and raw and read and learn. Fantastic. Great to have you here, Nicole. We've got from Lisa, need to grow areas that have been impacted by COVID and streamline what worked. Fantastic. We'll talk a lot about that over upcoming sessions.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
If you can't see chat, I don't know, you can click on the chat button, as you said, but anyone. Graham's got something there now. Yep.
Yep, extending networking and services. It's a great idea.
As they're coming through, we'll keep going. And what we've seen in the past, we believe working on your business is, especially when it comes to tradespeople, it's about working your brain as hard as your body. It's definitely not easy. It's logical, but it's not easy. And that's why most business owners don't follow through on working on their business. There is no silver bullet. Please don't go looking for one. We've been looking, we can't find it. It comes down to being logical, methodical, and doing it consistently. A couple of other questions we've had is, what's the right mix of on versus in, and who should I involve in working on my business? So fantastic. I mean, it's great that you've actually written down what you feel working on your business means right now. At the end of today, hopefully you've actually got a different view, or maybe it's the same view, doesn't matter. And at the end of 6 weeks, there may be a different view altogether. So let's get into what we feel working on your business means. Now, as we mentioned, one of the most prevalent traits of a successful and sustainable business is to have strong foundations, and pretty sure this building does not depict that. In fact, Tim and I were having a discussion the other day around, we cast our minds back to a terrible tragedy of 1974, Tim. You want to enlighten us on that?
Absolutely. So Cyclone Tracy came along for those in 1974 who were around up in Darwin, and the devastation was so severe and it was unforeseen. But the reality was that what followed this once in a lifetime event was changes to building code. So if you go to Darwin now, you'll notice the structures of the buildings are very, very different to what they were pre-1974. I'd say it was a once-in-a-lifetime event, a bit like a pandemic in many ways. So we talk about the Spanish flu, that was 1919. Well, 2019, we've got something else happening. So as business owners, we have to have our business strong enough to survive the next once-in-a-lifetime event. It doesn't have to be a pandemic. It doesn't actually even have to happen. But setting ourselves up for that pressure and that sort of sustainability is such a bonus. We're going to have a very strong business, and we can deliver on that business what we desire, or maybe even a little bit more should we want to sell the business, which is a lot of people out there that want to sell their businesses, and that's an option too. So look at the structure here. What we want to turn you into is to something very, very different to that structure, and something far, far more like this structure.
So, yeah, thanks, Tim. Obviously, yep. We've got Parthenons and Colosseums that have stood the test of time, and what we're going to do is have a look at the concepts around strong business foundations and what we believe constitutes strong foundations, and what we believe is really working on your business. You should be working on these things. First one, when it comes to foundation, is a clarity plan, and this details what the owner of the business, you, want from it in terms of money, time, and mind. In our minds, there are 3 freedoms: time freedom, mind freedom, and financial freedom. So you've got to document what you want out of your business. Remember this, please remember this. Your business is there to serve you, not the other way around. So write that down, put it on the wall, put it on a sticky note on your computer, wherever you reference it regularly. Your business is there to serve you. Put in your clarity plan. The next component of a strong foundation is a strategic business plan. And this is, in our world, a concise 1 to 2 page document, not 42-page War and Peace novel. It details what the business has to do to achieve what you've documented in your clarity plan. It should have solid and realistic business goals, as well as detailing possible strategies on how to achieve that. There should be 90-day action plans. Now, Tim and I, we've had one for well over 10 years now, and we refer to it on a regular basis. Not so much probably in the last 3 months, because we've just been going flat out with assistance, but we now are referring back to it. Now, it's not something you just get a template for and fill in the blanks, because you don't really own that. It takes time to work through what your business has to be and how you're going to achieve it. And you should be really doing those sort of things off-site, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. Third component of a strong foundation for business is a 10-hat structure, or we call it 10 hats organization structure. But what this does, it details the roles and responsibilities of everyone in your team, or as I said before, on your team if you're using consultants. It details their roles and responsibility. It's an extremely important document, and we're actually going to spend a little bit more time on this later in future sessions. And one reason why we believe it's important, because to get what you want out of your business, you're probably going to have to, or to have a business that doesn't rely solely upon yourself, then you're going to have to leverage. In our world, you can only leverage 3 things: technology, people, and through the use of systems. Now, we could spend a day on each one of those, but we haven't got time. But when leveraging through people, you need them to do what you want, when you want, and at a standard you want consistently. So you'll need a strong 10 hats or organizational structure to define the internal structure of your business. Very important. And the final piece of the, I suppose, the foundations are cash flows, statements, and budgets. So cash is the oxygen of your business. You cannot pay your team or your debts or yourself with profit. It has to be cash. And how many times have you asked your accountant, look, I don't have that much money in the bank, so how can I have made that much profit? Okay, later in this session, we might be able to give you a bit of an answer. Now, cash flow, or the lack of it, tends to be the #1 reason why a lot of businesses go broke. So you need to look at those budgets and targets and compare them as well. And you have to have a good handle on this if you want to be able to look ahead with any confidence. Basing important financial decisions on incorrect data is a recipe for disaster. So that's the foundations. And then we're basically talking about our pillars now. And our pillars, basically, they enable growth. But first of all, you've got to know your numbers. You've got to know not just the KPIs, such as what my sales were, what my gross and net profit is, but what your debtors and stock turnover metrics are, but importantly, critical drivers such as your marketing data. How many new leads am I getting? What's my conversion rate? What's my customer retention rate like? So they're important to know and be referring to as an owner of the business quite regularly. Next strong pillar is accountability, both from within, internal, as well as an external source. Anyone who's listened to our conversations or seminars, and when we could do seminars, webinars before, you may have said it before. Who are we most likely to break a promise to? And don't say our partner. It's actually ourselves. We can come up with some amazing excuses to let ourselves off the hook. So we need to bring in some accountability if we are truly going to make a difference and work on our business. And the third, I suppose, pillar to enable growth, systems. Remember when I said that you need, a strong 10-hat structure to get your team to do what you want, when you want them to do, at a great standard every time? Well, you need systems as well if you want your business to grow. So they're the pillars, and then we have the roof. Now, a strong roof is essential to protect what you've built. So in terms of structure, now, are you structured correctly? Are you set up the right way? And this can change over time as well. Are your assets and liabilities, as they're changing, are you protecting them by changing your business structure? Are your personal assets set up or owned in by the most appropriate person or structure? And asset protection. And I don't just mean your physical assets here. I mean your IP, the key people in your business. We're not going to focus a lot on this because this is where you need to go and get quality, tailored advice specific to you. So that to us is essentially what you should be working on in your business to have a great and strong business structure. Now, I said that we're going to look at 10-hat structure in a little bit more detail in weeks, but I think it'd be beneficial if we were to look at it at a high level right now. And that's because what we're going to be talking with you over the next couple of weeks is going to be, we're going to share you some ideas, share with you, give you guidance, and all this really should be filtered through the 10-hat structure. And specifically, which hat has the responsibility for that improvement, that tweak, that enhancement? If you come up with an idea, who is going to do that and implement it? So I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but you can see here that above the line is strategic, and they're the 10 hats we talk about. Shareholders basically finance the business, money in, and they get dividends. Now, the difference here is that if you're a sole trader, you won't have shareholders, it'll just be you, and you won't have directors. But if you've got a company structure, you'll have directors. Now, the directors, they set obviously the direction, and they set the strategic plan to get what the shareholders want or the owner wants out of their business. Below that, we have the leadership. You can call them CEO, you can call them general manager, call it what you like, but that position effectively makes it happen. So the directors set the path, the leader, CEO, GM, they make sure it happens. And they basically get reported to by the following hats departments. Product, service development. It really is, you need to be, as we've seen in the last 3 months, tweaking, enhancing, shifting, doing things differently. I mean, change is the only constant. You can't just go and set up a business and think that you're going to be doing the same thing for the next 20 years. You consistently have to be looking at different ways of doing things. You then have to do it. Operations delivery. I mean, that's where most people start out a business. Hey, I'm a great accountant, great Sparky, great loan writer, whatever it is. Oh, I can know how to do it. I'm going to go into business doing that. Sales and marketing. Marketing is generating qualified leads. Sales is converting those qualified leads into actual, and they're two separate. A lot of people put them together. They're not. Two different skill techniques. Now, finance, we've got to account for it. Invoicing, collecting money, administration and IT. I said before, leveraging through either people or technology. And HR, everyone loves the HR hat. Not. So that's where, if you don't like doing that, possibly outsource it. But someone, as the business owner, you have to be responsible. It doesn't mean you have to do. So that's essentially with the 10 hats. Now, before we move on, because we are getting close to the end, but I don't know if you've ever read Michael Gerber's The E-Myth, where most people, as I said before, when they go into business, they're very strong in the operations. Yeah. And the fatal assumption that Michael Gerber says people make is that an individual who understands the technical work of a business can successfully run a business that does that technical work. So essentially, in my case, yes, I'm technically an accountant, but that does not mean that I can successfully run a business that does accounting work. So put that into your own business there. And that's a great read, Michael Gerber, The E-Myth. So again, just giving you some context about what we think working on your business is. And each of those areas you should be working on, some more than others. So that's enough from me. I love this next session. I'll get Tim to run this about a 2-minute MBA, and essentially again, it's another component that we feel you should be working on within your business. Tim, over to you.
Thanks, Michael. And this 2-minute MBA, we won't pretend that it replaces the formalities of an MBA, that we respect absolutely that. What we want to talk through here is, in 2 minutes, how we can actually get to the nut of what is important to small to medium business enterprise. And you'll see here there's a constant circle going. So it all starts with our assets. And every business has assets. Now, the assets are not just the physical assets you have on your balance sheet. It's not just your land. It's not just your plant and equipment. It's also your knowledge. It's your IP. It's your database. Your database is a massive asset that a lot of people underutilize. It's your network. And I know we had some comments before about networking is working on your business. Absolutely it is, because an asset in the business is your networking and knowledge. So what we use those assets for is to create income and expenses, and that generates our profit. Now, that's pretty straightforward, and most people will say, yep, I get that. I use my assets, they generate some income, they derive some expenses because of earning that income, and then I have a profit. Unfortunately, for too many people, that's where the story starts and stops. It's the next elements we're going to go through that are really, really important. Because what is profit if it's not cash? Because cash is what we go and pay for our groceries for. We can't go to the IGA and say, "G'day, here's my milk and bread, and there's my profit." That's not how you pay for it. You pay for it in cash. So if you're having a business that is having concerns that you've got profit but you don't have cash, there's a whole heap of things you can do around that. Now, especially with this COVID-19 situation, cash is king. A really quick fix where to look for your cash for immediate term is in your stock, your debtors, and your WIP. So stock, the things you've bought, you haven't yet sold. Debtors are things that you've actually sold, or services you provided, you've charged for, but haven't collected. Or your WIP, work in progress, which is you're partway through a job, but you either haven't chosen to invoice for it yet, or you haven't got around to invoicing it for it yet. So short-term wins are very, very much available in those 3 areas. If you've got a business that has stock, debtors, and WIP, and you're thinking, I've got this profit, but I don't have any cash flow, go straight to there to start to generate some short-term cash flow. But of course, that dries up. You can't just keep going back to the same well. So let's look at what happens. With the cash, you've got 3 places that cash can actually go from your business. You can reinvest back into more assets. So therefore, you can go and buy a new branch of let's say you've got a business. You can go and create a new network. You can use some of that time to invest in a marketing plan. You can invest in yourself. But that's a really massive asset you've got. Your asset is yourself. How about investing in yourself to actually learn? So, but the first place you can go is assets. The second place you can go is to decrease debt. So a lot of businesses have some form of debt. We're talking about business debt here. So let's talk about things like HPs, chattel mortgages, you've got loans on properties, maybe you've got credits, maybe you've got ATO debt. That's somewhere else that money can go. Or, we love this one, you can pay yourself. You can actually take some of that cash to go for holidays, to pay your own personal home loan, maybe pay school fees, to just enjoy life and do things that you want to do. So you'll see with all that, this all starts with our return on assets. We follow our way through here. It's the assets that are the key, and the return on assets. If we generate a greater return and we get this cycle spinning faster and faster and faster, then there's more opportunity to decrease debt, more opportunity to pay yourself, and more opportunity to invest in more assets in the business. It's all about the pace we spend this through. And that's where the 10 hats is critical as part of that. Where do we find this information? 3 places: balance sheet, profit and loss, and cash flows. So we touched before on the strong foundations. This is where these reports fit in a practical sense. They fit into realities. They're nice to have for compliance and to meet the tax office rules, but let's face facts. What we really want to do is make more money and make more fun and create a greater lifestyle for ourselves. And how do we do that? Is we use these tools to actually grow our assets, grow our cash, and allow us to ultimately pay ourselves, decrease debt, and generate more assets in the business. So that really is a cycle of business. It's a 2-minute overview of the business. We'll touch on this more in the next couple of weeks, but if you get your head around that, all of a sudden it opens up possibilities, particularly, and one of the big things you can do is write down your assets. List all your assets down and see, how can I make them work harder through people, through leverages, systems, and through technology. So that's that, but it's all well and good. They have 2 Minute MBAs, but no results is no good. So Michael, I'll flick over to you to tell us about the law of results.
Okay, just coming into the home straight here, but I was wondering, when we were able to go to seminars and you went, or webinars and courses, and have you ever got back to your workplace and, this happens, you implement a couple of things, but soon enough you get dragged back into working in the business again. It happens, people drag you into the operations side of thing, and you really want to be working on something else. So you get back and, the people around you, your team, they're not quite as excited as you are about the changes that you want to implement. So to get the most out of these sort of sessions, we've got a law of results that we live by. And that is basically the power of an idea is in its implementation. Michael Sheargold, who's a consultant to a lot of real estate agents. Very simple formula. Decisions, we in our everyday work and personal life, we make a lot of decisions every day. But unless they're acted upon, they're just an idea. It goes without saying then that say, decisions are ideas without actions are worthless. They're pointless. What's the point of, it actually is just draining coming up with all these different ideas and etc. if nothing happens out of it. So we say that, make these decisions, but make sure you put some, actions into place. And to do that, you may have to introduce some accountability. As I said, rather either internal from in the team or external, where you get someone who just sits in and keeps coming back to you every 90 days or even 30 days, just to sit on your shoulder to make you do the things you said you're going to do. That gets results. And even the basic maths, if you substitute into decisions, actions, or accountability a 0, you're going to come up with 0 results. And finally, remember what I said about, we tend to underestimate what we can achieve in the short term, but overestimate, but we underestimate what we can achieve in the longer term. Well, it's coming back to this formula, the law of results. We need to give things time for the compounding effect to kick in. So really important. One last thought before we move on from this response mode. I want you to really look at this quote from Thomas Jefferson. And maybe there's some things that you are aware of now that need implementing or updating. Now, some of them you may be able to do yourself, but there's things you may need assistance for, and that's okay. As I mentioned up front, you have to start being honest with yourself in do I have the skill set to do this? Or actually, is my time better spent doing something else? So I'll leave that with you to consider, but powerful words. If you want something you've never had, you must be willing to do something you've never done. So I think we're coming into just about on time, which is not bad for us, Tim. To finish off, Tim, do you want to give the listeners some more homework?
Absolutely, because what we did think, and I just want to make a quick note too before I do this, is thank you to Michael for all the work you've put into this today. You've actually put a power of work to bring this together. And the whole 6-week session, we're going to take some real deep dives into what you've seen, some of those strong foundations in particular, talk through how you can actually do and construct your own 10 hats in your own business, and what clarity plans really mean for your life, past business plans. So that's been fantastic. We spoke earlier in the session about accountability. So just a minute ago, Michael was talking about accountability being one of the really key pillars of the law of results, and actions. And where are you going to live into that? So we've set up a landing page. You'll see that on the screen there, www.stagegroup.com.au/HumeCC Week 1. And what we're going to do, and for those who actually don't have a pen or paper handy, Linda will actually send you this link as well. We're going to set that, we'll ask you to hop into that link and just account for 3 things from today. We want you to tell us, what are the 3 major distinctions you got from this session? So the session here today is giving a lot of information. We've talked some learnings around the law of results. We've talked about decisions. We've talked about accountability. We've touched on 2-minute MBAs. There's been a whole lot of depth of knowledge around strong business foundation and the like. But we want you to point, what are the 3 major distinctions you took from this session? That helps us learn, but it also helps us know where we're going to take the next 5 weeks. We also want you then to action. Take one important action to be completed before next week's session. So it may well be that you're going to bring a friend in and someone else in the business time to jump on next week's session. That'd be great. It may be that you're going to start to write down some more notes. It may be that you're going to engage someone to help with some accountability. Whatever it is, one action you're going to complete before next week's session, because just one. And the reality is, if you do one action every week for the next 52 weeks, that's a year's worth of actions done. And we'd love to get your definition now on how you define working on your business now, whether that's changed a little bit from what we had. So we had some great responses earlier on around marketing and sales, and perhaps we've shed a slightly different light on how we consider working on your business now rather than in your business, because working on your business maybe includes the marketing, maybe includes the sales and networks, but maybe it's also broader than that topic too. So www.stagegroup.com.au/HumeCC Week 1 is the link, and as I say, we'll email that around to everyone who registered for the session. So we're looking forward to hearing that. Next week, we'll jump on board again at 10 o'clock. We'll take a deep dive, as we said, into those strong foundations and get some more details happening. So we're running perfectly at time, which is a great outcome. Thank you very much to Michael. Thank you also to Zena and the Hume City Council team, who always provide us with great support. They also provide businesses in Hume with great support, so it's a great thing. But yeah, excellent. Thank you, Michael, and we'll see you all next week.
See you next week.